Hello, girls. Uh, I hope you're fine. If you ask me, I am also fine, and I am trying to um, reach you and go on teaching about the story. So I have prepared a presentation and shoot this video to help you understand our story Squid Garden. As you know, you have an exam next week. You will have an exam next week. So before that, I want to help you to understand the story better. If you are ready, we can start because I don't want to take your time too much. Uh, the content of the presentation has five parts: the place, the time, the characters, the plot, and the main idea. Let's begin with the place. Where does the story take place? The story takes place in the beginning in India. Then Mary, the main character, goes to Yorkshire after his parents died. So the story takes place in India and Yorkshire in England, Britain. The time when does the story take place? The story takes place. Before that, we should say that there is no exact time in the story, but we can understand or say that the story takes place at the beginning of the 20th century, maybe around 1910, maybe around 1908, etc., etc. The characters, there are a few characters, not many characters in the story. Let's see who they are. Mary Lennox. Mary Lennox is the main character of the story. She's a little girl, and she used to live with her family. But after her parents died because of an unexpected disease like coronavirus, she came to live in Yorkshire with her uncle in Yorkshire. Then Kamala was Mary's servant in India. Basil was the boy, the family's son. Mary stayed for a few days after her parents died. Mr. Craven is Mary's uncle. Mrs. Craven is Mary's aunt Colin's mother. She died in the garden. Mrs. Medlock is the housekeeper in Yorkshire. Martha, the servant in Yorkshire, she looks after Mary. In fact, Martha is a very lovely girl and she helps Mary to get better, to love nature, to love people. She's a very good and friendly girl. Deacon is Martha's brother. Of course, he's Mary's friend in the garden, and he loves nature, animals. He plays pipe, and sometimes he talks to animals. And Ben Witherstaff is the gardener in Yorkshire. Susan Sowerby is Martha and Deacon's mother. Um, she's also a good mother. And Colin is Mary's cousin. He's another important character. He thinks he is ill, but in fact he is not. And Robin is the little bird, and it symbolizes Mrs. Craven. Then we can go on the plot. I will summarize the story with my own words, and you can read the story's plot. Here, you can stop the video here and read. Mary Lennox was a little girl. She was 9 or 10 years old. Her parents, or especially her father, was a British officer in India, but an unexpected disease appeared and her parents died because of this illness. So Mary became alone and she stayed in India for a few days or weeks, we don't know, a short time. with Bezos' family. Kamala was her her servant, but she died, of course, because of the disease, and she had no family or other relatives in India, so she came to Yorkshire to live with his uncle. His uncle has had a big house, in Yorkshire. Um, there were 100 houses in the rooms in the house, and there were very beautiful gardens. Mary woke up in the morning and she met Martha. Martha was a very lovely girl. In time, Mary began to discover the garden of the house, and she saw a big garden, but there was no door to that garden. So she began to wonder about it. She began to curious about it, and she asked the story of the garden and learned that the garden story was about Mrs. Craven, her aunt. One day, while they were in the garden, she fell off the tree, and the next day she died. So Mary's uncle, Mr. Craven, locked its door and hid the key. So for 10 years, nobody had entered the garden. At night, Mary used to hear some interesting noises. A child was crying. So when she asked about the noise, every servant didn't want to give any information about it. Then Mary met with Dickon. Dickon was again a lovely and a nice boy, and he was uh, he was Mary's brother. He loved animals, nature, and he helped Mary in the garden to grow flowers, roses. And in time, they began to play in the garden. And one day, the robin showed the place of the key in the garden, and Mary opened its door. So the children began to play in the garden. One night, Mary again heard a strange noise and followed it and discovered Colin. Colin was his cousin. He thought he was ill, but in fact he wasn't. So Mary helped him to understand, to know that he is not ill. And in time, they began to go out, play in the garden. The child, Colin, began to get better, and he was able to walk again. And his father came back to Yorkshire and saw his son walking and became very happy, and they lived happily. This is the plot. I summarized it here. You can read it here, girls. Then I want to talk about the main idea. In this story, there are two children, Mary and Colin, and they don't know themselves very well. They believe the other people, and the other people say that they are bad, they are ugly, they are ill. And in time, they believe them, but they forget about themselves. For example, Colin thinks that he is ill. Mary thinks that she's a bad girl. But in time, they discover themselves and learn about themselves. And they learn that whatever happens, life is always open to new chances. We should know ourselves. And to sum up, we can say that life is open to new chances. So never lose your hope and know yourself and always trust in yourself. Others may mislead you. So this is the main idea, and I hope this video will help you and is beneficial for you, helpful. Of course, you may have some difficulties in understanding the story, and you can ask me questions. I hope this video and this slide will help you to understand the story better. Next week, as you know, we will examine about the story, and there will be 25 multiple choice questions. I believe you have read the story from the beginning. If you want to understand the story better, you have to read the story from the beginning. From now on, for now, I will leave you, but I am planning to have live lessons as well. So when I am ready, I will send you messages. Bye for now, my girls.